This fall, we are taking a look at the Old Testament stories of biblical heroes. As we look at these stories, there are two things that we want to make sure we keep in mind. Number one, that these heroes are not perfect or extraordinary people. Rather, they're people just like you and me who put their trust and faith in God. And number two, that the real story of the Bible isn't even about these heroes, but about God and God's love for us. God is the main character of the biblical story, though sometimes we have to take a little bit deeper of a look to see how God was present. Last week, we talked about Jacob and how wrestling with God makes our faith stronger. This week, we are talking about one of Jacob's sons, Joseph. Joseph's story takes place in chapters 37 to 45 of the book of Genesis. Joseph was the favorite son of Jacob, now known as Israel, and he definitely knew it. The Bible says that Joseph would tell his father unflattering things about his other brothers, which obviously didn't go over very well with them. This was only made worse by the crazy dreams that Joseph had and shared with his brothers, that he would one day rule over them. Eventually, his brothers had enough, and in the worst case of overreaction ever, they arranged for Joseph to be sold into slavery in Egypt and told Israel that Joseph had died. From favorite son to Egyptian slave, Joseph's fortunes changed overnight. I can't imagine how terrified he must have been. He may have been a little spoiled, but no one deserves to find themselves in the situation that Joseph now found himself in. But even in this terrible situation, God didn't abandon Joseph. He ended up as a servant actually in the household of Pharaoh's chief officer, Potiphar, and through his hard work was noticed by his master. Joseph became his assistant and ended up being in charge of Potiphar's entire household. It seemed that things were finally turning around for Joseph, until Potiphar's wife started making moves on Joseph and then accused him of making the moves when he rejected her. Potiphar's furious and has Joseph wrongly arrested. Joseph finds himself yet again in a hopeless situation. But just like before, God is with Joseph. In prison, Joseph meets two men who serve in Pharaoh's household, both of whom are experiencing weird dreams. God gives Joseph the gift to interpret these dreams for them, and they're amazed. One of the men is summoned to be executed, but the other is returned to Pharaoh's household, though he forgets all about Joseph. Until 2 years later, when Pharaoh starts having weird dreams. Suddenly, the man remembers Joseph and suggests that Pharaoh call on him to interpret these dreams he's having. After 2 years suffering in prison, Joseph is summoned before Pharaoh, and he tells him that it's God who's given him this gift. After hearing Pharaoh's dreams, Joseph tells him that the dreams point to 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. Joseph advises Pharaoh to appoint someone to collect a portion of the food over the next 7 years and save it for the more difficult years to follow. Pharaoh is so impressed by Joseph's gift and wisdom that he appoints Joseph to oversee not only this project, but the entire kingdom. Joseph follows through faithfully with his plans and ends up saving the whole kingdom and the surrounding lands from starvation. From a shepherd who was sold into slavery to running all of Egypt. One day, Joseph sees his brothers have come to Egypt for food. They don't recognize him at first, so Joseph does some tricky testing to see if they've changed or if they are still as cruel and selfish as they were before. After seeing how they all come to the defense of their youngest brother, Benjamin, Joseph reveals his identity to them and forgives them, and they rejoice that they have found their brother again. Joseph's story is really difficult. While Joseph is incredibly blessed, he also suffers great hardship, enduring betrayal by his brothers, life in slavery, and years in prison. But throughout all that Joseph endured, God never left him. Even more amazing is that God was actually able to use these hardships to do amazing things through Joseph, including saving all of those people from starvation. God does not bring suffering on us. Our God only creates good. But when we find ourselves facing hard times and difficult challenges, God will not abandon us. There is nothing we face in this life that is too big for our God to handle, and no darkness we can find ourselves in that is too much for God's light. Even when we feel like there is no hope, our God is able to work within us to do great things for us and for His kingdom here on earth. Bye, friends.